Hello Year 12 and welcome to the fourth video here in our first HSC topic. Today we're looking at investing in shares. Now if you buy shares in a company, then that makes you a partial owner of that company. Right? You share ownership. So ownership of a company can be divided up into many equal shares, and you might buy some of those. The way that you do that is on the share market. That's where shares in companies are bought and sold, and there's different share markets all around the world and even in Australia. Now, whenever people are buying and selling shares in that company, so whenever that market is trading generally, then the price of those shares is changing. That's called the market price, and it changes all the time throughout the day. You can't generally buy them directly. You don't turn up to the share market and sort of knock on the door and say, excuse me, I'd like to buy this. You have to engage usually a stockbroker to do that for you, and they're paid a fee for doing so. That fee is called brokerage, and it may be a commission or it may be a flat rate. Now, should you own shares, the reason for doing so is to try to get your money to work for you, to earn more money through that investment. And there are two ways that can happen. The first is through a process we spoke about in the last exercise, which is appreciation, where the value of that asset increases over time and you can sell it somewhere down the track for more than you paid for it. Right? And the difference, less the brokerage, is going to be your profit. It's called capital gains. So that's one way that you can successfully invest using shares. The other way that money can be made from owning shares is through dividends. So if typically a company makes money throughout the course of a year, they might decide to give that money back to the shareholders. Right? An equal amount is distributed to each share, sort of belonging to each share. It might be 30 cents per share, for example. Right? And if you own 100 shares, you get 100 lots of 30 cents. And that's called a dividend. Now, if you receive a dividend of 30 cents, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, if you paid $1 for those shares, then that's 30%. Right? That's 30% of what you paid for that share is already being given back to you as a dividend, right? So that would tend to be really good. If you paid, on the other hand, $300 for each share, right? And if you were to buy stocks in Apple, perhaps that might be what you pay, $300 a share. In that case, 30 cents per share, right? You're not getting a big return on your investment. So, to sort of analyze how valuable that dividend is, we'll talk about a dividend yield, which is the dividend expressed as a percentage of the market price. So that's simply the dividend divided by the market price and expressed as a percentage by multiplying by 100. Rightio, that's all the language there. Let's have a look at some examples and how we calculate these things. So Miffy here buys 500 shares at a market value of $6.80. Brokerage fees are $33. What's the total cost of purchasing the shares? Well, we're going to have to do 500, hopefully my pen works here, 500 times $6.80. Right, that's what we pay for the shares, plus right, $33 here. I'm going to use my calculator. And here we go, 500 times the $6.80, 6.8, plus $33 in brokerage, and it costs $3,433. Alrighty, as simple as that. Multiply the market price by the number of shares plus the brokerage. Example 10 here, I've got a share price, $28.42. The predicted dividend yield is 3.5%. So what's the dividend? Well, the dividend yield is what percentage of the market price. So 3.5% of 28.42 means 3.5 over 100 times 28.42 times 28.42. Out comes the calculator again. 3.5 over 100, or you could say 0.035, that's fine. All right, we've got that multiplied by $28.42. So my dividend is expected to be about 99 cents per share, perhaps. Now, we typically round money off to 2 decimal places for cents. But when we're talking about things like dividends, they might be quoted to a 3rd decimal place because typically people don't own one share. We're usually talking about larger numbers, and so that's fairly reasonable. But in this case, I'm going to say 99 cents is the dividend there. Now, let's say the company doesn't pay a 99-cent dividend. It pays a $1.12 dividend. The yield then, the dividend yield, is going to be better than 3.5%. How much better? Well, it's $1.12 expressed as a percentage of 28.42. So $1.12 out of, or divided by, 28.42, and we'll just multiply that by 100 at the end to express it as a percentage. I should say percent. I'm going to write that in there, but please don't press the percentage button on your calculator. So 1.12, I'm not going to do the fraction, I'm going to go divided by 28.42, right, multiply it by 100, and there we go. My dividend yield is 3.94%. Okay, so you see that is a little bit more than the 3.5% that we calculated in the first place. Rightio. So that's what we need to know there. Mostly in this exercise, or we've talked about in this 7.5-minute video, is mostly the language around that. Okay, it helps to be familiar, but the idea of a dividend and the dividend yield, right, we need to be able to calculate those two. Rightio. If you've got any questions, please jot them down. I'm sure that I would be happy, or your teacher, to discuss any of those things with you in class, to explain anything that doesn't make sense. And I'll see you next time.